job in New York City, and I'm 2 days from leaving Hawaii, about to fly to New York, and I get a missed call on my cell phone and a message, and it's, "Hi Melanie, this is Neil Everett's voice calling you," and I'm like, what the fuck? So like, I'm like, Mom, he called me. So I was just like shocked, and he's like, "First of all, I want to know like how I got," this is the worst impression, but he's like, "I want to know how you got my information, like, but I was really touched by your letter, like, call me." So I call him, and we had like a really great conversation. We talked for like 45 minutes, and the next day I had an interview at ESPN. And I walked out of that like, all right, so it really didn't matter who I was in this situation. Like, no one asked me that I went to the University of Pittsburgh. No one asked me what my GPA was. No one saw my resume. I had an interview with the person that makes all the decisions at ESPN, and probably could have got a job there in the marketing department where I wanted to be, because Neil's like, "Get this girl a job." And that was half of my inspiration to wanting to write this book, because at the end of the day, it's about connecting with the right people. It's about having the right person, getting in front of the right person. It doesn't always mean you're going to get the job, but it gives you the best opportunity to get your foot in the door. And so I was like, okay, wow, like this is, I ended up taking an interview, and then I had already committed to my other company, so I didn't proceed with ESPN. But I was like, okay, this stuff works. So what's really funny about this whole thing is that, so I'm deciding to write this book, I'm 6 months into the book, and I get an email from my dad, and it's like, "Check out this video." So I'm in New York, and I'm looking at this video on YouTube, and it's how Neil is speaking to a group of people about how he got his job at ESPN. I'm blown away. I'm like, this is insane. Like, this guy has the coolest story I've ever seen. Like, he needs to be a part of my book. So I email him every day for 30 days. Like, "Hey Neil, just checking up. Like, you inspire me, blah, blah, blah." I'm like sending all these really, and I was being annoying. I'll admit that. Every day, just, because it took him like a month to call me back. Like, the guy takes forever to respond. So it's a Thursday. I'm sitting at a coffee shop after work, just kind of typing along in my book, and I get an email from Neil. And he's like, "Melanie, on my way to work, call me. I have like 10 minutes to talk." I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I call him. I'm like, "Neil," he's like, "Melanie, how do I know you again?" I'm like, "Neil, it's fine. Like, I'm writing this whole book about you. Like, it was 6 months ago. You got me the interview." And so we end up chatting. He's like the funniest person ever. So we end up chatting, and I pitch him I was like, "Neil, okay, so first of all, you inspired me to write this book, and then I caught your YouTube video online." He's like, "Melanie, hold on, I gotta call you back." He hangs up on me, calls his like rep person, gets the video taken down. And like, I was like, oh crap, I didn't call you back. "Sorry, Melanie, like I had to get that video taken down. Like, I don't do YouTube videos." And like, of course, that's what I was asking him for. Like, I wanted to do a Google Hangout since I was in New York and he was in LA. So I was like, okay, so I pitched it to him. He's like, "Yeah, let's do it. Call me back." I was like, okay, so can we do it over Google Hangout? And he's like, "Google what? Like, I don't do that. I don't do bungee jumping. Like, Melanie, no." He's like, "Call me back this time next week. We'll do the interview over the phone while I'm driving to work." I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So I hang up. And then I'm just like sitting there, I'm thinking like, this is the most sarcastic guy with the most passionate story. How am I gonna get that like on the phone while he's driving to work, as I'm like one hand typing, one hand like trying to listen to him? Like, there's no way. Like, I'm not gonna get, this is the story I need for my book, that like, it's not gonna happen over the phone. So I call him back. I'm like, "Neil, I'll be in LA on Saturday. Like, where can I meet you? All I want to do is do this interview in person over a voice recorder, so I can get your full story, just the way that I want people to hear it." He's like, "Melanie, what the fuck? Like, you're crazy." I'm like, "I know, but like, I need to do this." And he's like, "All right, meet me at my studio." So me and Neil at his studio gave me the best interview ever. Totally 100% worth it. It was like the coolest opportunity. Went to his studio, gave me the whole tour, sat down, and he's like, "And you can have this on film." So I had a friend at USC Film School, and she came over and like filmed the whole thing in like really cool quality. So what I take away from Neil's story, and I won't get into it because that kind of dives away from this presentation, but what I love about his story is you take someone who's at the top of their industry, and no matter what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, you always hope and you always look and you're inspired to get to that point in your life. Like, if you're an actress, like, you want to become the best actress. Like, you look at those people and you're like, wow, like, how do I do that? And you always kind of think like, oh, there's probably no way I can do that. Like, how do I get to be the CEO of this company? How do I get to be, the sportscaster? And what I love about Neil is that he breaks it down in a way that's so doable. And what I take from his story is this. You hear his story and you think, wow, you got really lucky, Neil, because of everything that happened. But then when you actually learn about what he did to get to that point where he created his luck, is 3 things. So 1, finding out what you're passionate about. So he knew his passion was sports broadcasting from a young age. It was just something he knew he was interested in. He loved sports. He found that out early. Skill. You have to have some kind of skill. You can't expect to be at the top of your industry without any sort of skill. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be born with that skill, but you need to acquire that skill. So you have to put the time in, you have to put the work in. And I end it with a lot of work. 80 hours a week, grinding away, putting the time in, not focused on that perfect job. Neil started in a local newsroom that no one even knew, grinding away 80 hours a week. No one even knew he existed. And I think that's the biggest thing too. It's like, you want to become a sportscaster at ESPN, don't expect your first job to be the best job ever. It's going to be focused in the industry that you want to be in, not, clouds and rainbows. And I think that's big. Like, you graduate from a great college, you want to get a great job or, start your own company, whatever your goal may be. Take those blinders off and focus. It's not about, you might not like your first job, but what are you setting yourself up to do? What kind of exposure? What are those next steps? And I think when you look, and it's just so important to be passionate about what you're doing. I think you can take that for so long and then you can't go any further if you have no passion. And it doesn't mean you're gonna love what you're doing when you first start. But the people that are successful find a way to do things that they're passionate about. And I don't do what he talks about justice, but this is really what I take away from that. And when you work so hard and you're passionate and you have skill, you give yourself an opportunity to create luck and to get that foot in the door moment and just put yourself in those situations. And the more you do it, the more luck you create. So getting off of the story is just kind of moving on to like what this book was about and everything. So published the book in 2013. Since then, I've probably spoken at like 25 colleges, sold a few thousand books. We've had articles in Forbes, Business Week, and more. At this point, this presentation's a little old, but I write for the Huffington Post. I can't think of what to write about, but I'm supposed to be writing for them. So it's led to some cool opportunities. A lot, and what's really funny is I wrote this book for college graduates, but it's been a lot of, salespeople that have used this. It's been a lot of older people who are trying to break back into the job force. It's been people that I didn't originally think would use these skills, but have applied it to a lot of different things. So it's a pretty straightforward skill that you can really take anywhere in your life, whether you're starting your own company, you're jumping into sales, doing whatever you want. And so I like to switch over just for the next few minutes to talk about just my high level breakdown of the job, of looking at important steps in finding a job. So first of all, why is it so difficult to land a job out of college? And I think a lot of the difficulty is when our parents are finding jobs, it was not this hard, and now there's such a saturated, the market is so saturated. When you're competing against a job out of college, no matter where you're going, you're competing against your year, the year that graduated before you. You're competing against people with 2-3 years of experience that got laid off because the job force is so saturated, and now they're back in entry level. So it's really difficult. No matter what kind of company you want to work for, you're just competing against those people. It doesn't really matter. And on top of that, there's so much standardization in hiring. So you send your resume out and it's 1 of a million. How are you getting it? How is someone even looking at your resume? So what can you do? Good luck. That's my funny thing. Come on, guys. It's my joke. Just kidding. Okay. But really, what can you do? And I think the only thing you can do is put yourself in a position to stand out. And how do you do that? So my 4 high-level points of of how you get in front of someone, even if it's not, you're not even applying for a job. I think there's 4 things that you need to do. So, and I'll go into every step as, I'll break it down in different slides. So the first is brand new. I love this story. So this is a story that I have in my book, and Robbie Williams saw a job he wanted, applied to it 7 times. No one responds. And he's like, okay, and he was applying on LinkedIn for this job. No one was responding. LinkedIn wasn't the company, but the job was posted there. So he's like, all right, no one's going to respond to me. I'm going to take the whole job description and put it in my LinkedIn. So he weaved the entire job description in his LinkedIn profile. 2 days later, an in-mail from the recruiter for this position. Hi, Robbie, caught your LinkedIn profile, thought you would be a great candidate for this job. And it's the job that no one answered him 6 times. And it's crazy. It's all about keywords. It's all about prepping yourself. And so the story is great because it shows the importance of LinkedIn. So I think before you even start applying for jobs, before you put yourself out there, there's 3 really important things that you need to do. The first one is having your LinkedIn profile built up to a point where if you finally get your foot in the door in front of someone, if you finally get your resume seen in front of someone, your LinkedIn better reflect your best. Because that is the first thing everyone looks at. Doesn't even matter if it's your resume in front of them. They're going to they're going to look at your LinkedIn. And there's a lot, and in my book I have a lot of steps on that, but LinkedIn does a really good job. You can create an all-star portfolio. You can be connected with your alumni group. That's huge. You can do all sorts of things to build yourself up so that is your best foot forward when someone looks at it. You don't want to put yourself out there until your LinkedIn is prime. Second is Google yourself. Like, who's coming up when you Google yourself? Is it an ex-murderer? Is it yourself? Like, that is what people do. And if it is not who you want it to be, there are ways to get yourself on top. And there's a lot of things you can do, even within your LinkedIn profile, to SEO that and to search engine optimize it and get it so when people are Googling your name, it comes up first. And that's super important. Like, I don't know, not everyone's blessed with like a very individual name, you probably have a name similar to a lot of people. So see what's happening when you Google yourself. And lastly is your resume. Like, you have to have a real put together resume. It doesn't mean it needs to stand out or do anything crazy, but if you're going to put the time in to getting in touch with people, getting a referral, getting your foot in the door, making sure all your ducks in a row are there so that way, like, they see your resume and like, okay, this is a qualified candidate. And a lot of doing that too is keeping every job specific. So having a tailored resume to all the different jobs you're applying to. Not just having some one generic resume that you're sending out. It's like, all right, I'm going to look at this job description and I'm going to make my resume seem like the best candidate ever for this job description based on what they're looking for. All right, second, once you're all set with that, it's your plan of attack. It's how are you putting yourself out there? And like, as I mentioned, for a straight month, I had the worst plan of attack. I was applying for 1,000 jobs a day. I was spreading myself way too thin. And I think this is really important just for your own, sanity. So I like to say organize yourself. I had like different manila folders for every single job. I was printing out articles. I was putting like different profiles of the people that were interviewing me. I was very, very organized. Select your channels to connect. Where are the people at the companies you want to work for? Are they at a club on a Saturday night? Like, is that where you need to be to like get in front of them? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they hanging out at a certain place? You need to figure out, based on your industry, where these people are. And lastly is finding the right balance. It's maybe you only take one company a week. Maybe you're not spreading yourself too thin there. Maybe you're going to focus in, put all your time and effort on one company and give it your best shot before you move on to the next. Third is being creative. Everyone has something that they can do to be creative, and that's something I learned through interviewing hundreds of people for this book, is that one girl I interviewed built a Lego and sent it, you can do all kinds of like weird things, but whatever you're passionate about really stems to how you can be creative. Maybe you like creating websites, maybe you like doing origami, I don't know, whatever it is. Find a way to take those skills that you have and somehow make yourself a little creative in the process. All right, lastly is approaching people. And I've already touched on this, but note to self, no one wants to help you if they don't know you. I get tons of emails, and a lot of them are like, hey, Melanie, like, I'd love to work at Twitter. Like, would you mind submitting my resume? yeah, I'd mind. Of course I'd mind. You know, like, I have no idea who you are. Don't send me your resume. Like, I'm never going to respond to those people. Now, today I got an email, which is really interesting. I was like, oh,